Welcome if you remember me, welcome if you don't. If you do remember me, then you know that I started my BookTube channel in 2018. I had a webcam and some grainy camera footage, some terrible audio quality, but I was just going for it, I started here because growing up, I studied only American and British classics in my schooling, and I wanted to correct this giant gap that was within my reading. As a South African person, I knew nothing about South African literature. I knew nothing about the African continent and the riches it had to offer. And so I wanted to explore that and take you on that journey with me. As someone experiencing it for the first time, being excited by things, disagreeing with things, and just the discourse about that. I thought, I'm going to be the change that I want to see in the world. I didn't really see a lot of that on BookTube at the time, and so that's what I did. And you might think, oh, okay, sounds great, but then why are there no videos on your channel? Because I just deleted all of my videos and I disappeared into the ether for 8 years and I never came back until now. So I'm trying to get my act together. I have bought a tripod, but I'm just too lazy to take it out now. So that's not happening. And yeah, I'm going to be doing the Your Answer Can't Be Books tag, which was created by BookBud, because I want to show you how my life influences my reading and how reading influences my life. And again, that's why I started the video the way that I did. My life influenced my reading in that my schooling created a deficit. So in my reading, I tried to fix that deficit, and that in turn also influenced my life in other ways. So when I first started on BookTube in 2018, I was studying a pharmacy degree, and I was influenced by various factors and various reasons to go into that degree. And I had this intuitive knowing that it wasn't the correct path for me. And the correct path for me ended up being law, which I'm now in. I've gotten some work experience. And law because my reading has always been very into political science, geography, anthropology, these kinds of things. And the social sciences, at least within South Africa, really greatly influence the law. And my reading has influenced my career trajectory. You'll find that a lot of people become candidate attorney, associate, partner, and then sit in that partner post at one civil law firm until the day that they retire. There's totally nothing wrong with that, but my trajectory is going to be different because because of the things that I've read, because of the things that I've seen within my life, my lived experience. So again, my reading influences my career. It influences the way that I approach relationships. So I do a lot of psychology reading, for example. But yeah, let's get more into the tag and then we can discuss more in line with the tag. So the first question is something that you own way too many of. Obviously, you are not allowed to answer books. And I'm just going to preface this by saying that overconsumption is not something that I look kindly upon. I don't think it's something that we should be glorifying, although being on the internet inevitably means you're going to get overconsumption. So again, I'm not here to dictate to you, you must only have 5 shirts and what, I don't know your living situation. I don't know your circumstances. But that kind of gives way into my answer, which is fashion. I really enjoy fashion. I enjoy curating my wardrobe. I don't have too many of it, ha ha ha, I've got such a fashion addiction. I don't glorify it like that. So each item that I buy, I think about it, is this going to fit in with my current wardrobe? Is this the color scheme that I enjoy, etc., etc.? Am I very happy with the fit? So I do a little bit of both. I do secondhand fashion, vintage fashion. I will buy things new, but I really try and avoid that because overconsumption and the fashion industry, it's engulfing and swallowing local textiles within Africa. We need to support local artists and local textiles. It's such a serious issue, to just say, ha ha ha, I own too much, I'm just going to buy from Shein and Temu, which are known to be exploitative of their workers. I'm going to try and rein myself in with the rants here. But the thing is, this is people's livelihoods. This is the planet that we're talking about. Fashion is a very serious thing. Overconsumption is a very serious thing. But again, you didn't come here for me to preach. So I do enjoy my wardrobe. I enjoy fashion. I enjoy expressing my Indian heritage, but also my African heritage. I've grown up here in South Africa my entire life, so I make sure to incorporate that visually into my wardrobe. Maybe it serves as a signifier for some people, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But I just kind of want to create that safety when people look at me visually. They've got this welcoming, that I've incorporated a lot of different things into my wardrobe, that I'm not being exclusionary within my wardrobe, because I think we speak through the way that we choose our clothes. So again, I just try and be intentional. For example, my engagement ring as well, I refuse to choose diamond because I didn't want to support the mining industry. It's known as being very exploitative within South Africa and again throughout the entire world. Things like coal, we can't really avoid within South Africa. There's certain things that are not within your power, but the things that are, my engagement ring didn't have to be diamond. Nobody's going to die if I don't choose diamond, but if I do choose diamond, most likely many people died within that process. So again, you can see I enjoy my clothing, but I try to be intentional as much as I can. I try to not overconsume as much as I can. I try to mend clothing as well, support local tailors, and that kind of goes into the topic of my wedding clothing, which I have no idea what I'm going to do. But there's this brand called Sari for Change within South Africa, and they take Indian textiles, they upcycle it into something a lot more modern, which I enjoy. I do find some of the Indian textiles, the older styling comes across as a bit frumpy and a bit auntie to me because that's what my aunties and what my nannies and grannies wore. So I love the textiles themselves, but I would love to see them styled in a more modern way. And Sari for Change just addresses every single one of those things. They use unemployed women to transform the textiles into something new. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I think that's what I like to represent within my wardrobe. I like to be so intentional about it. Anyway, sorry about that. So question 2 is something that you do for fun. Obviously, it must not be reading. Okay, so when I was a kid, I really loved rollerblading. So that's when the wheels are in line. But now I've been doing some roller skating and like roller dance, which is very fun. I've done a lot of different dance styles. So salsa, contemporary, ballet, belly dance, a lot of different things, whatever is available to me. So I am open to Indian dance styles. It's just that I find Bollywood to be extremely commercialized and a bit of a biryani of things, and I don't really like Bollywood dance, if I can put it that way. But I do feel that like Bharatanatyam and Kathak is maybe a little bit too structured for me, a bit too stiff. And if there's any religious elements to Indian dance, then I'm like immediately turned off because I am not Hindu. I don't identify with that tradition and mythology or anything. Oh, okay. The word mythology is very fraught. Let me just say, I don't identify with that tradition. I'm not going to do that kind of dance. So again, dance is political, art is political, whatever dance you choose is... how do I always get off track here? Okay, so the thing is, what do you do for fun? I roller skate, I dance, I rock climb, I swim. Ooh, I love swimming. Yeah. Okay. But you know what? If I was just going to give you the straight answer, that's also very boring because doesn't everybody like to swim and read? And okay. Next question. What is something that's special or important on your nightstand that's not a book? So my nightstand just has like crap on it. It's just got like lotion and face cream, to be perfectly honest. And there's like nothing else because there's no space. But on the floor next to my bed, I at some point had a shadow work journal. So if you know that term, it's Carl Jung, who was a Swiss psychologist, where he believed that these light and these dark traits to all of us as humans, we all have what he calls shadows. And if you don't integrate that shadow, you create problems. So if you are a very... the very obvious one is if you yourself are cheating on your spouse, but you don't claim that, then often you find people accusing the spouse of cheating when they in fact are the cheater. So, things like that you project onto other people if you don't deal with your shadow. So I was doing this shadow work journal, and just it's about integrating your shadow. So yes, there's light and there's dark parts and there's parts of ourselves which we don't necessarily like that much, but again, it's about that integration of the psyche. So yeah, I have like journals on the side of my bed, which is cheating in a little bit of a way because it's still books. Technically, like journaling is still engaging with books, even though it's you engaging with your own mind. But I'm just gonna leave it at that and not think about it too much more. We'll just move on to the next question. Okay, so something you buy at bookstores other than books. Again, when you talk about my buying habits and I explain it to people, I'll say to them, fiction for me, I devour. Most nonfiction, I also devour. I tend not to buy that because, again, if I bought every book that I owned, I'd be bankrupt. My whole income would just be, or every book that I read. If I bought all of them, it's just not possible for me. So when I go into a bookshop, the things that I can justify buying is cookbooks because, again, the images and obviously the tactile experience, or just pull out a cookbook and work with it in the kitchen. So I can justify cookbooks. It's not strictly answering the question, but I'm getting there. So things like cookbooks, things like coloring books as well, because the tactile experience, you can color on an app on your phone, but I enjoy the tactile experience of coloring books. And then I really like fancy journals in bookstores as well. But to answer this question, something that you buy at bookstores other than books, so completely taking out books, and completely taking out my buying habits, which again I try not to overconsume, because most fiction, most nonfiction, I can get it as PDFs, I can get it as, yeah. So when I went to bookstores, I have friends that are also avid readers. So this is just my real life colleague at work. She really likes the Oprah book lists. And say what you will about Oprah, I'm just gonna not even go there. But it allows things to reach a mainstream audience. So this colleague is obsessed. And I thought, if I buy her a book, she'll also just devour it. And she tends to read on her tablet, so she also reads PDFs rather. The accessibility of that, she can take it when her kids are rehearsing hockey. You can see I was such a theater person growing up. So whatever they say, they're rehearsing at their hockey practice. Then she can sit on the bleachers and she can read her books as a PDF. So I thought, no, I'm not going to buy her a book. That's like a waste of her time. So I bought her these little pins and it just said introverted but willing to discuss books. My weekend is booked, and then there's a picture of a book there, and like just these cute little things like that. Pins that she can stick on her bag as she comes to work, that kind of thing. So there's these little like book memorabilia things. She got me this really cute bookmark from Turkey when she went to Turkey. Oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. So the two of us just take turns gifting each other like that. It is so fantastic. You don't always hit the lottery like that with colleagues. Often maybe you don't like anybody in your entire office building, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. So that's one thing, like book memorabilia. And then the other thing that I've bought at bookshops besides books is there's kind of two massive book chains in South Africa. You either get exclusive books or you get bargain books. I like both of them for different reasons, I think. And each one is completely different as well. You might get a wide selection of nonfiction, and this one has a lot of cookbooks, and this one has a lot of coloring books. And, again, each one is so different, even though it is a chain. So my other friend, the one who she learns French with me, she loves her arts and crafts, and she always leaves things unfinished. She's moving on to the next shiny thing, and she just gets so excited, and her jerseys are half done and things like that. So I just thought, let me get her this little craft kit, and it's those little crochet stuffed animals. They are so cute. And so yes, I got her a little set with that. It's got everything that you need. It's got the hook, it's got the yarn, it's got the stuffing, everything. So I bought her that as a little Christmas present, because I said, obviously, when she wants to do some crafting, but she doesn't want this massive commitment where it's this giant blanket that she has to make up of granny squares. So yeah, those are the kinds of things in South Africa where you find in bookshops. You find obviously the stationery, the gifting items, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I buy that stuff for myself, but for my colleagues, I loved it. And then the next question is a fun gift that you received besides books. Now, this is a difficult one because I'm not an easy person to buy gifts for. Yeah. Like I enjoy my semi-precious stones. So my engagement ring is a semi-precious stone. Like most of my bracelets are that as well. My fashion sense is a little bit elusive. There's some, as people would say, bohemian elements. There's some Tibetan jewelry and those kinds of elements, some Indian elements, but also some African elements. The silhouettes that I go for as well, it's very specific. So it can be difficult to shop for me. I appreciate things like vouchers, I appreciate things like cash. But no, my fiance got me some lovely color pencils, and I think that's art supplies. Yes. That's relatively simple. So, yeah, that's a fun gift. I'm still using them. I love these color pencils. I don't really know. I think he bought it from one of the stationery shops here, which is called P&A. Yeah. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with Faber-Castell, but these are not Faber-Castell. These are just some other brand that are also fantastic. Then, question 6 is, what is a YouTube channel that you watch unrelated to books? So there's this creator called Shel Bisley, and she talks about environmental issues, overconsumption, rewilding her lawn. So she lives in Texas within the US, and she says everybody has this lawn, and it's manicured, and it's so much of maintenance. It's killing the local ecosystem. It's this water sink. It's terrible for the environment. And she talks about the alternatives that she herself practices within her life. So she created an entire habitat within her garden. She composts. She collects her packages. You know, she's like, in South Africa, we've got the Asian moms and the African moms where they waste not, want not. You know, you don't waste even one thing. You make sure something is absolutely destroyed before it enters the rubbish. So I just, she's fantastic. She really talks about the things that those of us in the global south, we're doing it already. But her message really needs to reach the global north, you know? It needs to reach Americans. I just don't want to sound like I'm preaching here and like I'm being horrible here. But I just really align with her mission and take up tips from her. What can I actually do within my life? She says, do your best and advocate for the rest. So she's talking about going to your local municipalities, writing in. And that is something that I do as well. I make submissions to Parliament every time there's bills coming out, whether it's environmental bills, refugee bills. I'm really doing the research into how can you make polite, respectful academic submissions to the powers that be so that we can just create a better world for the future generations. So her channel is just fantastic. You know, I think on social media, on YouTube, it's very easy where everything is about overconsumption, everything is just about getting sucked into the latest trend, and she actively stands against that. She, I find, is just incredibly constructive and something that it's worth my time to be listening to that. I also listen on YouTube to a lot of people who talk about Jungian psychology, things about complex PTSD, like Pete Walker. What's his name? Forrest Hanson. So he's got a podcast called Being Well. And again, just various psychological things about attachment styles, etc. So it's just my way of seeing how can I show up better within my friendships, within my relationships, these kinds of things. So when I look at YouTube, I do again try to be quite intentional about my consumption. Also, just because I don't have a lot of time, hey. Most of us, we've got a lot of demands on our time. So it's just about being intentional about the things that you consume. YouTube channels that you watch unrelated to books. So in a way, the psychology content is related to books as well. It's not pure BookTube, but it is based in scholarship. So, you know, things like Bessel van der Kolk, the attachment styles, I forgot who was the author of that, but it is scholarship. It's just that it's a now specialized interest, I suppose. And then the last question, question 7, is tag 5 booktubers. So because I've just been off this platform for such a long time, I don't have very long-term relationships with a lot of booktubers. I think if you watch this tag and you enjoy it, please do it. Let me know in the comments you've done it. I'll encourage you in your comments. So I'm very sorry for that cop-out of a last answer, but I don't want to make this video too long. I just hope that you enjoyed and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.